New York City's migrant crisis is only getting worse. The so-called sanctuary city's migrant shelters are officially out of room. And we're seeing migrants spill into the streets of Midtown Manhattan with no other place to go. Hundreds have set up camp outside the city's iconic Roosevelt Hotel, and scenes like this are becoming far too common across the Big Apple. The situation is so dire that the city is now reportedly considering converting soccer fields used by children on Randall's Island to additional shelters. And now Mayor Eric Adams is calling for more help and sending this warning to resident New Yorkers.
Eventually, this was going to come to a neighborhood near you, and it is. We need to control the border. We need to call a state of emergency, and we need to properly fund this national crisis. We need help. We need help, and it's not going to get any better. From this moment on, it's downhill. There is no more room.
And Bill Maher is now calling out the leaders of the Democrat-run cities for failing to address the issue.
It's, again, the same principle as I was saying before about, like, the reverse of what liberalism really is. Liberalism is, for the sake of humanity and compassion, can we get these people off the streets? And woke is, how dare you ask them to move? This is their home.
They have rights.
No, it's not. There's easily a better solution to this. But instead they put them in hotels? That's your answer, hotels? Could everybody just stop the posturing? Don't pretend that you love migrants so much, and then when we send them to you, you don't like them. You know? Mm-hmm. You're full of mm-hmm. And we can see that. Yeah, you like them when it wasn't your problem because you're not a border state. And then when they show up in Chicago and New York, you're like, what the what are we going to do with these people?
Kim Douglas, truer words never spoken,
Exactly.
right?
I mean it. It's so
Oh
true.
my gosh.
And I'm not trying to be lighthearted about this because it really is serious. But when I heard about this story, I went down and I was interviewing some of the little kids in the soccer fields, and they're tired of being kicked around. Oh. All right, so didn't plan that well, but seriously, you guys, the little kids, I understand through my research, 3,000 hours of sports events will be canceled because, as Bill Maher said, these people, you can't say, you know, don't come here, we want to move them to these soccer fields. So all these little ones that are out trying to deal with obesity, trying to deal with depression, now they're all out of their soccer games, the parents, the adult teams that we all need so much. All of this is kicked to the curb, forgive me, but no pun intended. But seriously, now all of the migrants, 93,000 I think to date, are going to be in these soccer fields.
Yeah, doctor, to her point, 3,000 hours are projected to be canceled of activities of public and private school kids, adults included. And, you know, these residents are also paying for this with their tax dollars. So they're being taxed and they're paying for it, and then they're losing what they've already paid for with their tax dollars to create those other recreational programs.
Emily, it's a threat to the public health of people who are citizens here. Yeah. And let me give you the facts on this. It's not just about the sanctity of our borders, which is huge. It's also a public health emergency here. I actually have been treating some of the migrants outside my office in the heat, on the street, trying to save them and having to send them to the hospital because the one thing that's not being talked about is heat exposure and infectious diseases that are coming across. And Mayor Adams was like, well, we're a sanctuary city. He said that a year ago. Let me tell you one more thing. We have about 70 to 80,000 homeless in New York already, and they have shelters, and almost every one of them has a bed at night. That's not perfect, because the shelter system has a huge problem, but it's a big improvement from when I was in my training at Bellevue before the shelters were there. Improvement. There's no room in the shelters whatsoever for additional people that are here illegally.
You know, Martha, the mayor says they're coming to a neighborhood near you, talking to New Yorkers, but I argue that sentence can be applied to all Americans because every state is a border state now.
Well, I live in a New York border state, in New Jersey, and I can tell you that the homeless population has increased there as well because people are pushing out of the cities. It's already happening. And, you know, Eric Adams may be stumbling on a solution here because do not tick off soccer moms. They are very determined to get their kids to soccer, to get them to football practice, whatever. Right. So he's messing with a group that is super fired up and will not stand. I mean, I'm telling you, people are way more serious about sports than academics in the current environment in the United States. So that, I think, will be a trigger. I think Bill Maher is 100% right. So much hypocrisy. Oh. It is dripping with hypocrisy when you look at the way this situation has been dealt with. And one thing that we didn't hear there, Sharon Osbourne said she's moving back to London because she said they don't allow people to sleep in the street there. It's against the law. When I was a kid, they used to have, they literally, the police would come out with sweeps, brooms. I'm sorry, sir, you can't sleep here. You got to find somewhere else to go. They would clear all the streets around Port Authority, and they had benches that had little partitions in them so that it wasn't comfortable to sleep on them. Obviously, you're so humane and you're helping these individuals, and I think God bless you for that.
Lives.
Absolutely. We have to find humane solutions, but people cannot sleep all over the streets. It's just untenable. It's not going to work.